From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Elul, improving our hearing. We know that prior to Rosh Hashanah, we have a month called Elul, the last month of the Hebrew year. And this Elul is associated with great time of repentance. In Yeshiva, they call it the Elul Zman, the time right before Rosh Hashanah. It's Elul, it's that month to get ready, to start to learn up a storm, to get ready. They say in Europe, even the fish began to tzita, they began to tremble because they heard that God is coming, the judgment is coming. It's the month of Elul, it's time to get ready for Rosh Hashanah. But the question is, where? Minayin, Elul Minayin, where do we find that Elul is significant? Truth is that if you look in the early sources, Talmudic sources, if you look at the Rambam, the Tshuva period is the 10 days of repentance, not the month of Elul. However, rabbis throughout the centuries have found various hints in the Torah to the idea that the month prior to Rosh Hashanah is also to be significant. Of course, generally associated with the idea that Moshe went up to Mount Sinai on the beginning of Elul, and those 30 days plus the 10 days of repentance ending on Yom Kippur create the 40th day, the 40 days where Moshe went up, he received the Ten Commandments yet again a second time and received forgiveness on Yom Kippur. So it's really historically connected to that. Many other associations, but they try to find hints in the Torah. And if this is the month where we're doing tshuva, and we know that tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah, ma'avir nes roa gzera, that we say on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that it's going to be through prayer, tefillah, through tshuva, repentance, and tzedakah, and charity, that indeed we will be able to change the decree of God for us for this year, then indeed the rabbis have found 3 hints to the idea of Elul as a significant month for these 3 concepts. The idea of tefillah, the idea of closeness with God, is expressed in the acrostic Ani l'dodi v'dodi li, a verse in the Song of Songs that says, I am for my beloved is for me. It's a time when not only I try to get close to God, but God tries to get close to me. Tshuva, it's a time where, as we say in the end of Deuteronomy, Umal Hashem Elokecha v'lavcha ve'et levav zarecha. An acrostic, et levavcha ve'et levav, spells Elul. An acrostic said that God will circumcise our hearts. God will remove the obstacles from our hearts that prevent us from getting closer and doing teshuvah. And finally, tzedakah, the hint to the Torah that Elul is a time for tzedakah, is found in the Megillah of Purim of all places. It says, Matanot levyonim, Mishloach manot, ish l're'ehu. Ish l're'ehu u'matanot levyonim. Again, an acrostic, the idea of shalach manos and matanot levyonim, giving to the poor. Again, an acrostic associated with Elul. Actually, the first shalach manos we find are Ezra, where Ezra told people to send shalach manos on Rosh Hashanah. So there's an association there as well. But in the realm of tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah, there is a hint in the Torah, in the prophets, in the scriptures, to the idea of Elul, this being a significant month. To add to the fun, Rabbi Yekutiel Teitelbaum, the grandfather of the famous Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel, who died in 1883, he wrote a sefer called Yitav Panim. He's known for his book Yitav Lev. This is another book, Yitav Panim. There he says that we can find in the Az Yashir, in the song of the splitting of the sea, we can find a hint to the idea of Elul. Because it says, Az Yashir Moshe, Uvnei Yisrael, Vayamru Lemor, Ashira Lashem, right? Az Yashir Moshe, Uvnei Yisrael, Lashem, Vayomru Lemor, Ashira. It spells once again, in a twisted way, it spells Elul, once again backwards. So what does this have to do? What does the song of the splitting of the sea have to do with Elul? It's not connected. He says, well, let's turn to a Midrash. The Midrash says, there's an Az, then he sang the song at the splitting of the sea. But the truth is that this is not the first Az. This Az, where he sang the song, atones for a different Az. When he stood after the burning bush, he said, Moshe turns to God with an accusatory finger and he says, ever since you spoke to me, and I spoke to Pharaoh, things have gotten worse for the Jewish people. You have made it worse, and you have not saved the Jewish people, said Moshe to God. And therefore, Moshe spoke very crassly. Moshe spoke very harshly to God. It was sort of a sin, and he needed tikkun, he needed fixing. And how do we fix the sin of Moshe speaking inappropriately to God? Az Yashir Moshe, a different Az, fixes the first Az. It atones for it, it fixes it, the tikkun of it. And instead of speaking with his mouth in an inappropriate way, he sings the most magnificent song of the splitting of the sea. So too, says the Itav Pani, we need as well to, before Rosh Hashanah, we need to fix our mouths. Perhaps we've said things in the past that are not correct, that are not proper, that are inappropriate, perhaps we spoke Lashon Hara, perhaps we spoke against someone else, perhaps we hurt someone with the words we said, perhaps we were not honest with our words. And such a mouth cannot be ready for Rosh Hashanah. Because Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot are all about the mouth, he says. He says Rosh Hashanah is about blowing the shofar with our mouths. Yom Kippur is about confession with our mouths. Sukkot is about singing the songs of Hallel with the lulav and esrog. That mouth has got to be ready. And a pered nover nevala, a mouth that somehow is unfit, that's not going to be good. We're not going to make it for Rosh Hashanah, for Yom Kippur, for Sukkot. We've got to get ready. That's why this is an allusion to Elul. Elul is a time to fix our mouths. How do we do that? There's a custom to say Tehillim, say more Tehillim this month, to finish the whole Tehillim during this month, Bli Neder, and try to do it. And everybody tries to say L'Davi, to say a few extra Psalms. Later we'll say Shir HaMalos, to add some extra Psalms to our daily dose. That way we can fix our mouths. However, there's also an idea, Rav Kook said, to fix our ears as well. And that's why we blow the shofar throughout the month. If you come to Shachrit in the morning, you'll see we blow the shofar after davening. Why? Because we want to open our ears, we want to fix our ears. For what? Well, says Rav Kook, he says, you want to hear the voice of God in every mitzvah. A mitzvah is not just something to do, but you should hear the voice of God. The Chidush Yarim says, when you do a mitzvah, you should hear the voice of God in it. He says you should also hear God in your heart. He says you should also hear God in his echoes, in the footprints of the world around us. So that this time of year, we read Parshat Shoftim. And what does that mean? It says Avodas Yisrael, the Kosher Magid, he says, you know what? You should put guards on all of your gates. You have 5 gates, says the Sefer Yetzirah. You have your mouth, and you have your nose, and you have your eyes, and you have your ears. You got to put guards on those gates to make sure we hear and see and smell all the right things. This month of Elul, we need to improve our hearing. We need to improve our speech. We should be ready for the month of speech, the month of hearing the voice of God in the shofar, hearing the voice of Sinai. And hopefully with that, we'll be ready. We'll be ready for the day of judgment, for the Yom Adin. And hopefully God will grant us, Ksiva v'chasima tova, a good and gebenched year, a blessed year, a year of Chaim v'Shalom for us and for all of Israel. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us here today at the Anshe Sephardi Beth El congregation. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.